I just returned from a 4-day business trip in Chicago. But then I heard it. A sound that didn't belong. The door was cracked open just enough to let the light spill out. And then the door opened. She came out first, wearing my t-shirt. Her hair was wild, her eyes wide. Behind her? The last man I expected. My boss. Thomas. CEO of the company I bled for. The man who toasted to my integrity just last week at the quarterly dinner. His shirt was half-buttoned, his belt undone. He looked at me like I was a ghost. But she screamed. Don't do this. I'm pregnant with twins. You're going to be a father. Tom slowed. I should have broken down. Should have collapsed. Instead, I just stood there. Calm. Too calm. I'm infertile, I said. For words. That's all it took. Her face changed. Paled. Like all the blood in her body made a break for the door. She staggered backward, mouth open but empty. Thomas blinked, trying to process. He wasn't fast enough. Everything that came next wasn't rage. It wasn't sadness. It was clarity. I walked past them, into the bedroom. Looked at the bed. Our bed. Sheets I'd picked out. Mattress we saved for. It was a war zone of passion and perfume and lies. I turned, looked them both dead in the eyes, and said, You just detonated your futures. They had no idea what I meant. Not yet. But they would. Because I'm not the kind of man who burns down houses. I'm the kind that turns off the water first, then lights the match. They didn't speak at first. Just stood there like children caught in the middle of something they couldn't lie their way out of. I watched Thomas fumble with his shirt, trying to fasten buttons like dignity could be salvaged with a straight collar. My wife, Sarah, stood frozen, hand on her stomach like she thought the word pregnant was still a shield she could hide behind. Are you serious? She stammered. Her voice cracked. Probably from all that moaning a few minutes ago. About being infertile? I asked, my tone flat as blacktop at midnight. Yeah. Diagnosed 2 years ago. 0 motility. Not low. Not try again later. 0. Her knees buckled and she slumped onto the hallway bench like her bones gave up on her. Thomas stood there like he'd rather be in a war zone with no helmet. Smart man. Dumb choices. Why didn't you ever tell me? She whispered. I tilted my head. You mean after you said you didn't want kids? After you told me it was too soon, even 5 years into the marriage? Seemed like you'd made peace with the idea. Guess you just outsourced the problem. The silence that followed wasn't quiet. It screamed. Screamed all the nights I spent building a future she was tearing apart in hotel rooms and unlocked bedrooms. It screamed in the photos still hanging on our walls. It screamed in every lie she'd told when I was too blind to question her girls' weekends and her spa getaways. Thomas finally spoke. Look, this. I didn't know. I didn't mean. I cut him off with a look so sharp he flinched. Save the corporate apology, Tom. This isn't a shareholders' meeting. I didn't know she was married. She said. Oh, don't insult both of us, I growled, stepping closer. You've met me. I've been in the same room as you. I've shaken your hand. I introduced you to my wife. At the Christmas party. Remember? She was wearing red. You said she looked stunning. And she blushed. Remember now? His face twisted, ashamed and still somehow arrogant, like he thought the right combination of words could reset reality. Please, Sarah breathed, her hand still on her stomach like that would undo anything. You don't understand. No, I said. I finally do. And that's when the plan began forming in my head. See, most men, when they find out their wife's pregnant with another man's twins, they scream. Punch holes in walls. Get themselves arrested. Give her the satisfaction of seeing them fall apart. But I'm not most men. I don't get mad. I get calculating. I looked at Thomas. You've got 3 kids and a wife in Westchester, don't you? He stiffened. How did you? I don't miss payroll records, Tom. You think I haven't noticed all the last-minute client emergencies that just happened to line up with Sarah's calendar? You two are about as discreet as a marching band at a funeral. His mouth opened, then closed. He didn't deny it. Smart again. I turned to Sarah. Her eyes were welling with tears, but they didn't fall. Not yet. Good. Let her feel the pressure. I'll tell you what, I said, voice calm and terrifyingly even. You want these babies? Have them. Raise them. With his name on the birth certificate. Because it sure as hell won't be mine. Wait, please, she started, reaching out. I stepped back. You made your choice, I said. You just didn't think I'd find out. And now that I have, I'll make mine. And just like that, I walked away. Left them standing there in the house I paid for, surrounded by the life I built. But I wasn't gone. Not yet. I had work to do. Legal calls to make. Financial locks to change. Secrets to expose. Because when you take a good man for granted and feed him lies for dinner, you better pray he doesn't wake up hungry for justice. People think betrayal is like a gunshot, sudden, violent, loud. But no, it's a paper cut. Silent, small. Happens when you're not looking. But you keep bleeding long after you should have healed. I didn't leave the house that night. Not yet. I let them sit in it, her on the bench, him hovering by the door like a child waiting to be called to the principal's office. I went downstairs, poured myself a glass of whiskey, and sat in the den. And I thought, Thomas didn't try to speak again. Smart move. And Sarah, she didn't follow. She must have known that whatever spell she had over me was gone the second those words left her mouth. I'm pregnant. You're going to be a father. Lies. That was her power, always controlling the narrative. But the script had flipped. By morning, she was gone. Her things were still there, but she wasn't. She'd packed a duffel bag and left a note. We need time to process this. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to hurt you. Didn't mean to hurt me? She invited pain in, dressed it in lace, and shared a bed with it. She had no idea she'd just handed me the keys to my revenge. First thing I did, lawyer up. Not just any divorce attorney. I hired Margot Aldrich. She's the kind of woman who doesn't shake hands, she takes them and doesn't give them back. I showed her everything, medical records, financials, photos of Sarah and Thomas from the Christmas party, screenshots of texts I pulled from our cloud backup before she could change passwords. Margot read in silence, then smiled. This is going to be fun, she said. We filed for divorce on the grounds of adultery, willful deceit, and emotional distress. The twins? Not mine. I requested a formal disavowal of paternity. She wouldn't see a dime from me, no alimony, no claim on my business, no house. And because I was smart enough to never commingle assets, she had no ground to stand on. But that wasn't enough. I wanted her to watch the empire she tried to steal from fall straight through her fingers. So I went to work. Step 1. HR. I walked into Thomas's office the next day like nothing happened. He flinched. I smiled. Morning, boss, I said. Mind if I sit in on the ops call today? I've got a few notes on the Q4 numbers. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. Or maybe just a man who refused to stay dead. We played the dance for 2 days. Him pretending things were normal. Me pretending I hadn't caught him sleeping with my wife. But the real show started when I sent an anonymous report to the board. Detailed. Timestamped. With photos. Videos. Expense reports showing he'd funneled company money to client dinners that were really hotel rendezvous. The board moved fast. By the end of the week, Thomas was suspended pending investigation. Company email locked. Card access revoked. His name wiped from the directory like it never existed. He called me that night. Please, he said. We can fix this. We. I said. There's no we, Tom. There's just you, trying to climb out of the grave you dug with your pants down. I hung up before he could respond. The next day, I changed the locks on the house. Moved her things into boxes. Mailed them to her mother's place with a handwritten note. You always said you wanted space. Here's 2,000 square feet of it, without me in it. My phone buzzed constantly that week. Calls from Sarah. From her sister. Her best friend. Even her OB-GYN, believe it or not, because apparently she thought I deserved to be involved in the baby's lives. You ever notice how the truth doesn't just break hearts, it breaks routines? 2 weeks after I served the papers, the rhythm of my life changed. No more text about running late. No more perfume on the pillow that wasn't mine. No more pretending I didn't hear her whispering in the guest room with the door half closed. Just silence. Clean, blessed silence. I'd cleared her out of the house, and I kept the place cold on purpose. Empty rooms, freshly painted walls, sheets that still held the crease of absence. I even swapped out the mattress, because you don't sleep on ground zero after the bomb drops. You bury it. She called. A lot. I didn't answer. Then came the email. You're being cruel. They're your children until proven otherwise. You can't just erase us. I didn't respond. Instead, I had my attorney fire off the DNA test demand and a notarized denial of paternity. And just to twist the knife legally, we added a clause. If she attempted to list me as the father without a DNA test, I'd file for fraud. You want a game? Fine. But I write the rules now. The best part? She didn't realize how many people I'd already pulled out of her orbit. Our shared friends? They knew. Turns out, betrayal doesn't sit quietly at brunch. It slips out in whispers between clinks of mimosas, and suddenly you're the woman who torched a marriage with twins that don't belong to her husband. Her best friend, Mia? She came clean. Told me she'd suspected something for months, but couldn't prove it. I should have said something, she murmured when she dropped off a box of Sarah's clothes. I just didn't think you'd believe me. I would have, but I get it now. Sarah was good at making people second-guess themselves. She weaponized doubt, but that weapon's gone blunt. And then came the part that made everything deliciously poetic. I found out Thomas hadn't told his wife yet. Poor woman thought he was still traveling for expansion, when in reality, he was busy trying to convince HR not to nuke his severance package. So I sent her a letter. Plain envelope. No return address. Inside, a printed copy of the hotel bill. One of the ultrasound photos Sarah had sent me, time-stamped to a night Thomas was supposed to be in Denver. And a message, just 10 words. Ask your husband who he was with in room 412. 2 days later, word hit the grapevine. Thomas's wife filed for divorce. Moved out with the kids. Took the house. Froze the joint accounts. Thomas? He's couch surfing now. Jobless. Reputation hanging by dental floss. And Sarah? Oh, she showed up. Yep. Came to the house. Knocked on the door like she hadn't shattered everything inside it. I didn't open. She stood outside in the rain, holding her belly. Makeup streaked, like a walking soap opera. I'm scared, she called out. I have nothing left. I stood behind the door and listened. She wasn't wrong. She'd burned every bridge on her way to whatever fantasy she thought Thomas would give her. Now, she was just a woman carrying twins that no one claimed, sobbing on a doorstep that no longer recognized her. She banged her hand against the wood. You said you loved me. I did. And I gave you everything. But love doesn't mean staying with the arsonist after she lights the house on fire. When she finally left, I sat in the quiet again. No music. No whiskey. Just the sound of the rain easing up. There's a particular silence after betrayal. It's not the kind that makes you feel lonely. No, this one feels like rebirth. Like the air after a storm. Electric, clean, and heavy with the scent of possibility. That's where I live now. Not in bitterness. Not in grief. But in clarity. And trust me, clarity is a damn dangerous thing in the hands of a man who's been lied to. I started my mornings different. Cold shower. Strong coffee. One look in the mirror, shirtless, jaw tight. And I didn't see a broken man anymore. I saw a man who had nothing left to lose. You want to know what that kind of man can do? Anything. I rebuilt my days brick by brick. I stopped waiting for apologies that were never coming. I stopped explaining myself to people who had already chosen a side. I deleted Sarah's number. Blocked it. Same with Thomas. I wasn't going to waste another breath on their names. Instead, I made new calls. One to a financial advisor. Another to a PR firm. Then one to my silent partner in a tech startup I'd helped fund a year ago, but kept in the shadows, until now. Funny thing is, people like Sarah and Thomas, they never realized I'd been playing a much bigger game. They saw me as the nice guy. The reliable one. The one who never raised his voice, never missed a mortgage payment, always smiled at the in-laws. But they never saw the meetings at midnight, the business plays made under NDAs, the patents filed under LLCs I didn't attach my name to. And now, the quiet man in the room had something louder than rage. Leverage. While Sarah was busy trying to patch together a life she'd set fire to, I launched mine into a new stratosphere. That tech company? Public announcement scheduled for next quarter. We were on the cusp of landing a massive federal contract. The kind of deal that turns quiet capital into generational wealth. And the best part? Thomas had been my boss. Past tense. Now, I owned the licensing rights to the software he'd overlooked 2 years ago in a proposal he laughed off. Full circle. And karma? She wasn't just knocking. She was walking in without wiping her feet. I heard through the grapevine that Sarah had moved into her sister's basement. That Thomas was fighting for supervised visitation after his wife found a second burner phone. That they weren't even speaking anymore. So much for twins make a family. Meanwhile, I was out at a rooftop bar with a few investors, laughing over a whiskey sour as the city lit up around me. I wasn't flaunting anything. That's not my style. But I made damn sure to post that photo to my private business page. Public enough that people would see it. One of those people being Sarah's friend Mia, who I knew, without a doubt, still forwarded her everything I did. It wasn't revenge. Not really. It was exposure therapy. Let her see what moving on looks like when it's done right. Not with a rebound. Not with tantrums or desperation, but with evolution. You want to break a man? Lie to him. You want to destroy a woman like Sarah? Outgrow her. That weekend, I stood alone in the living room of my now peaceful home. Sunlight poured in through the windows. I had Jess playing, barefoot, sipping black coffee. She once told me I'd never survive without her. And here I was. Not just surviving, thriving. But make no mistake, there's one thing I haven't let go of. Every debt comes due. And betrayal? That's got interest rates you don't walk away from. Let me tell you something. While Sarah was out there spinning her web of sob stories, trying to salvage what little social standing she had left, I was doing math. Not the kind with numbers. The kind with receipts. You see, it wasn't just the cheating. It was the spending. The flights she booked under work travel that matched hotel reservations with Thomas's name. The spa days that didn't match any charge from a business card. The client lunches with no client in sight. She wasn't just stepping out. She was using my money to fund the betrayal. And guess what? I kept everything. Every credit card statement. Every joint account transaction. Every shared Dropbox file. She never realized the man she thought was too boring to notice was building a trail behind her like breadcrumbs through a minefield. And now I had it all. I met with Margot, my attorney. And let me just say, watching her work is like watching a hawk rip the feathers off a pigeon. We filed a motion to recover marital assets under fraud. You see, in our state, using shared funds deceptively during a marriage qualifies for marital waste. In plain English, she spent what wasn't hers on a man who wasn't me, and I wanted it back. The day of the hearing, Sarah showed up in a beige maternity dress and forced humility. Like a character in a movie trying to win an Oscar for Remorseful Woman #1. Didn't work. She barely looked at me, but I looked at her every second. Because this wasn't about emotion anymore. This was about accountability. Her lawyer, a junior associate probably fresh out of law school, tried to frame it as confused timelines and emotional distress. Said Sarah hadn't known she was pregnant until after the affair. That she'd never intended harm. Margot let them talk. She let them pour honey into the ears of the judge, and then she stood and scorched the earth.